Hello and welcome to the new season of If My Feet Could Talk. If you've never listened to before, check out season one. I've got some amazing guests on season one, and hopefully in this season I'll have some more guests for you as well. We talk about everything from running events, there's talk of triathlons, there's talk of athletics, as well as mental health and coaching. And everything really. That's what our feet do. They're involved in quite a lot of stuff. So this is what my podcast is all about, and I like to talk about what our feet get up to. Really. If you've heard before, thank you for coming back. I've had a lot of good feedback and a lot of support, which is fantastic. I'm glad people have enjoyed it. A little update on myself, though. I've completed 396 days of running in a row as of today. I'm still going strong. I'm still training as best I can without knowing what's happening with events. Sooner I know, the more focused I could be. But yeah, it's been a good year of running so far, so I can't complain really. I've also been invited as a guest on 2 podcasts, so listen out for them on. One of them's called Ground Zero: Life Without Limits. And the other one is Run Strong with Gary House, who's going to be coming on my show for a chat. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Anyway, this latest episode. Okay, my next guest is a former Matelot. He's a governor, I suppose. He's boss dude, or one of the boss dudes in the Midland Fire Service. He's also an ultra runner. He's a good friend of mine, Pete Drummond, and I'm going to be catching up. So here we go. And we're recording. All right, mate. So how's it going? How's tricks?
Yeah, good mate. Good mate. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So obviously you're not a well-known sports star. You're not a well-known ultra runner. Obviously, down in my part of the world, you're quite known now, mainly because you just gob off a lot on the microphone, and you're well-known within the fire service as well. So just give a brief history about yourself so our listeners get to know you a little bit.
Okay, so Pete Drummond, obviously. I'm 48, father of 4, newly father of 4. I joined the Navy at 16. I was in that for about 8 and a bit years, and left in 96. Worked for the Ministry of Defence for a couple of years in the old chart maintenance unit for the hydrographic office. And then joined the fire service. I've been in the fire service for 22 years this September, and gone through the ranks a bit, and I'm now a middle manager, so stage commander in West Mids.
So you're just an average bloke who's done a bit of service time. You've done a bit of this and that, and you've been a fireman most of your life. Obviously, you're from the accent. People can tell you're Scottish. Whereabouts are you from?
I'm a forces kid. So I was a patch kid. My old man was in the Navy for 20 plus years. So I was born in Dunfermline. My old man was based in Rosyth. So born in 72 and moved around a bit. Hong Kong for a couple of years when my sister was born, and then ended up in Plymouth and spent most of my youth in Plymouth, round sort of Crown Hill sort of way.
And growing up as a kid, did you get into sport much? The Scottish were obviously big football and rugby players. Were you involved in any of that as a child?
Yeah, funny enough, I was I did a bit of running, not a fat lot. Most of the run I did was on the wing, playing rugby. I played rugby for a fair bit in school.
I was a winger in school as well.
Yeah, I had the pace. Didn't the size, but I had the pace. I wish that was the case nowadays, because that's not the case anymore. But But yeah, played a bit of that, and then played a little bit in the Navy. Just sort of ship rugby, nothing sort of special. But yeah, I did a fair bit. Most of my school career was, funnily enough, spent doing music and singing.
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 Wow. Yeah. See, there we go. This is something I've learned new now.
Yeah.
You used to sing. What type of songs? Were you a choir boy? Were you
I was yeah, it was in the days of Aled Jones, so you know the next Aled Jones had been looked for. So I started off doing O-level music, and then I in the old sort of, it was called traditional music back then. You had to have two, so you either did a percussion instrument and something else. But mine was, I played the double bass. It was twice the size of me, and I was a singer. So I did quite well at that. I did competitions, and the sort of highlights, I was a soloist for a bit with the Scottish Philharmonic Orchestra. I did a bit of touring, and then the pinnacle was I did the opening credits for Choir of the Year 1983. Well, BBC Two.
You made it big time.
Yeah, and then the ice broke. It all ended.
And then you joined the Navy.
I joined the Navy and became a karaoke king. Yeah.
Well, this is it. Aren't we all in the Navy?
Yeah, we are.
So you joined the Navy many years ago. How was Nelson?
He's a bit of a git, but his old man was worse.
You joined in what, the 80s?
Yeah, 88. 1988.
Yeah, so you joined up just before a year before my brother did in 88.
Yeah.
You joined in 89. And then you went on for about 8 years. So obviously you mentioned you played a bit of rugby in the Navy.
Yeah, just ship stuff, you know, into ship stuff, into base stuff. I think best game I ever had was with it was actually in Naples, at the PX in Naples. As you've probably been there, the big ground that's surrounded by sort of a couple of hills and stuff. And the whole team were in effect slightly still inebriated from the night out the night before.
Standard. Which
was quite comical. We were playing with the Yanks. That was interesting. They don't like it like we do. They were wearing padding and all sorts. But yeah, it was good.
I'm surprised they didn't come on with helmets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And throwing the ball forwards.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, they didn't understand the offside either.
No, they don't. So, but did you do any running at all during your time in the Andrew?
It was more
because the fitness test didn't come out when you were in. The annual fitness test didn't come out while you were in. No,
it was. They were talking about it at the time. I remember doing. I tell you where I did do it. It's all coming out now. In my when I was at Her Majesty's Pleasure at RNDQ Nelson for 28 days.
Oh, nice. What was that for?
That's under official secret.
You'll have to tell me over a pipe. So you did a bit. I think most people in DQ.
I did get let out for good behaviour, so you're all right. Yeah.
A lot of people in DQs often say they ended up probably the fittest point of their life, whether it was at Nelson or Colchester or.
Oh, it's a proper reset. And you know, the unfortunate circumstances that brought it around. It was probably the start of things, sort of, probably the first inclination of things going wrong up here.
Yeah.
In hindsight, so yeah, it is what it is. But I'm glad it happened.
Your Navy career wasn't, totally smooth sailing. You've got a gong for being in a war zone. It was a war zone. That's why you got a gong. Obviously, was it the Adriatic you went out to?
Yeah. So, Adriatic 95.
Yeah, so although you weren't involved like people saw in the Falklands maybe or anything like that, you still went to action, you still defence watches, you still, had that possibility of getting shot down or hit by missiles from the land. So it's quite a scary thing for any. Yeah,
we were lit up a few times by Silkworm, which was up in sort of the upper far end, where it was sort of dodgy off Split and all that, Dubrovnik and all that. Yeah. So, yeah, I did when the old whistle blows and all that. It's still, well, you know exactly what it's like.
Well, you're an RP like myself. Obviously, I'm more of a modern day RP. but you're pretty much at the front end. You're the eyes, long distance eyes for the unit, and you're the ones that have got to spot these things flying and hopefully get a track on it before we get blown out the water. So there's a lot of pressure for a young lad. And I think civilians don't really understand the pressure this can cause to young lads, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the army or the junior service. There's a lot of pressure on lads joining up at 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can't go to war now if they're 17, under the age of 17. But when they're 18 or not, sat, either their fingers on the triggers or whether in the ops room or down the engine spaces, getting ready to damage control.
Yeah.
The civilians don't realise how much pressure that is on a young lad.
Yeah, the pressure's on. Yeah.
And obviously, you being there already once, by how old were you now? By the time you were out in 95?
95, I would have been 22.
22. So for 22, a lot of 22-year-olds nowadays wouldn't have an idea of that type of pressure.
Yeah.
And that's already starts working on your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, the roles that the Navy get involved with. I mean, I was Fisher Protection Squadron for a couple of years, and you're it's not just about protecting fish. You're chasing drug runners majority of the time. And when you've got our friends from SB sleeping in your mess deck and ready to go execute what they need to do to sort of get these bad guys, it puts things into perspective. And then for us, you join up and you never expect to actually get involved. And at the time, it seems quite fun. And then you look back and think, bloody hell.
It could have gone completely worse. It could have gone absolutely. I mean, you just look at the Falklands as an example. We're 38 years now since that's just recently ended. And there was young lads the same age as you. You were 22 up in the age gap, but there was 22-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds down the Falklands, burning.
Yeah.
They were sinking, and some sadly lost their lives. It is one of those jobs where you don't realise how serious it can get until the shit actually happens.
You probably same as me. I've had mates die. Quite a lot of them died on the Brilliance helicopter when that went down. People unfortunately die all the time. It's a workplace at the end of the day. But I think that those bonds that you makes it a little bit harder because you live, breathe, eat, sleep.
Yeah.
And cry with these people. So it's like long life bonds.
So you left the Knob in 96.
The Knob?
The Mob.
Did you say knob?
No, Mob. You're a knob. You left the Mob, aka the Andrew, the Royal Navy, in 96, and you said you did a couple of years in the chart maintenance unit. For people who don't know what a chart maintenance unit is, back in the days before digital, we had paper charts, and shoreside there was a unit in each base that would correct up the charts, navigational charts, provide the ships with up-to-date charts prior to them sailing, and then the guy on board would keep them up to date while they sail. Now it's all digital. But like you, I was a Navsio as well. Probably one of the best jobs in the mob it was. Yeah, absolutely loved it. But you left there and then you joined the fire service. How old were you when you joined the fire brigade?
So I was 26.
Is that
joined
roughly the average age of people join? What's the average age of people joining the fire service nowadays? Roughly?
It probably is. It's probably mid to late 20s. Apart from the guys that do time in the forces and then join. There's no upper age limit anymore. I remember my father trying to join when he left, and he was too old by a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think it used to be 33. But he obviously didn't get in. But there was a guy in my course. He was 47, and he did 23 in a mob as a chief wafu. Joined the service, and he still does a bit now.
So you were still
20 years down the line.
You're still reasonably young when you joined the fire service.
Yeah.
And obviously, you now got some life experience behind you. Do you think that helped when you joined the fire service?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. I mean, you can see it. I mean, the fire service is very different from when I joined. I mean, even 10 years on, it's very different. And 10 years on from now, it'll be very different.
It's the same with the Navy. You know, it's like, way things move, the way procedures, technology, thought processes, guys like you higher up and above you come into us. The job's always changing and you've got to move with it. So you where did you join the fire service? It wasn't the Midlands, was it, where you first started?
No, I joined Hampshire, my first station. So I trained at Eastleigh in Southampton, or Beastleigh, Eastleigh as you used to call it. And then I was at Cosham Fire Station, just down from
Dryad.
It's the first station on Dryad's Patch. I was there. Yeah, I did 2 years there. And
then when did you join Midlands?
I joined West Mids in 2001, something like that, around about then. My ex-wife, of which you know.
Yeah.
She was an ex-Wren, so we met when I was at Barratt Garden, Nelson, and that's what happened. She came from the Midlands. A couple of years down there, she wanted to come back up and go back with family. So that's how I ended up.
So you're now in the West Midlands, Coventry, and what have you. And had you started getting into the running scene at this point, or were you still like just doing fitness for obviously your job and that was about it?
No. So when I left the mob, I did the usual thing. I even had and most guys that leave will sort of, this will resonate with them. It's very hard to step away from it once you've left. I mean, you've done it once before, haven't you? So you know exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I'm a failed civvy. Failed Matelot.
Good knack it. Lightweight.
Yeah.
So that sort of transition from leaving, I think it's quite important that when you do leave, you step away from it entirely. Because I didn't do that. I got a job working back in the dockyard, working with naval personnel, doing a naval job as a civilian. I even worked in the Park Tavern for a time. You know what I mean? Do you remember the Friday afternoon?
That's the Friday discos is still going on.
Yeah, 2 for 1s, mate.
Every Friday lunchtime, away they go.
Yeah, so I mean, I went from being one end of the bar to the other, and it wasn't good. But it took me a while to get away from that mindset. So what I basically did is I stepped away by focusing on fitness, and it's that running sort of came out. I'd always done a bit.
Yeah.
But that's when it really took over, really.
See, I went the opposite way. I went away from fitness and I went down that opposite end of the bar and everything else. So, I totally agree with your point there. The Navy will never leave you.
No.
Or the Army or the RAF, any of the armed forces guys will tell you. Once you, it doesn't matter how much you hate it or how much you resent doing it at a time, it will always be with you. It's a part of your life, whether it's 4 years or whether it's 22 years.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to leave that mindset and that integration that you had as a family. And it's not until you leave, you realise how much of a big part of a life it was. And if you don't find a different focus away from it, it's very difficult. So you started finding your running. When was it when you started going, you know what, I fancy a bit of a challenge here, let's start entering races and stuff like that?
I did my first race. It was the Great South.
No, classic 10 miler.
Yeah. And that was in 2000. I did my first one. And then the same year, I did the Pompey Half Marathon. And proper smashed them as well. I proper smashed them. And it was one of those, actually the guy that I used to drive to and from training school with, he was a runner. And I actually did the first race with him, and he was quite good. And we got into it, and he says, "Mate, I'm holding you back. Just go." And I've got a photograph of me crossing the line, and there's nobody else around me. So I'd proper given it some. So yeah, 108 was my Great South. And then I did the Pompey half in 118.
Nice.
I was flying.
Yeah.
Flying. So, but even back then, with it again, you know, you get those indications that things aren't as what they seem. Not knowing back then, but knowing what I know now, is that my addictive personality had started to kick in already then, because I was running day and night.
Yeah.
Just to get faster. You know, and it was explained to me by my counsellor that, you know, the addictive personality you got tends to be sort of brought down from a family member. And my mother had it. She had very addictive personality, but she went the opposite way, and she was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So the focus just went elsewhere.
My grandfather, my grandpa Scott, who I talk about a lot on Facebook when it comes to certain periods, time of the year to do with World War II and stuff like that. Fabulous man. But when he sort of left the army towards the end of his career, because he after the war he rejoined back up and became a recruiting sergeant and all that sort of stuff. But he started spending the house money on gambling on horses. So he became an addict for gambling. And my uncle did the same. After he left the army, he became an addict in slot machines.
Oh, wow.
So it runs in my family, and I follow that side of the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but luckily, my addiction, you know, is my running.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's a slightly better addiction in a way. Really, it's got more benefits than it has cons. Yeah. Really,
I found with the running that the biggest, and we'll probably touch on it later, the training aspect of it, especially for big races, is that training can take over your life, and if you get an injury, it hits you hard. And if you lose your mojo, it hits you hard. And that's where I have struggled in the past.
So you started running, you said that was your first race was 2000. Now in 2020, that was over 20 years ago. Talking about it now, because this is one part of my plan, but talking about it's now 20 years since your first race.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that now? You know, your first race, you smashed it, and then you smashed it half 20 years ago. And how does that make you feel reflecting on where you are then and where you are now?
I think it gives you a sense of, obviously there's a sense of achievement, because you think, oh, bloody hell, brilliant, I loved it. But my fitness, the way I train, or the way that I have off weeks, good weeks, all that sort of stuff, is very different. I mix it up a lot more, whereas I used to just run. I probably learned a fair bit about my own body, and I think that helped me when it came to the sort of ultra marathon sort of stuff, the ultra races, because you know yourself, it's a very, very different animal, and it isn't just about, you know, it's 90% mindset, 10% endurance, and it really is. I think the changes that I've managed to go through to get where I am now is more an understanding of yourself rather than an understanding of running. That makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because running is simple, isn't it? It's one foot in front of the other. It doesn't matter whether you're Speedy Gonzalez or you're, you know, partying at the back. Running is the simple process. It's everything else that's involved in it. That's the hardest parts. Whether it's, you know, whether it's the training, the program behind it, the dedication, the mental aspects, you know, all that is on top of the simple part of running.
I've never been a great one for following a plan. You know, considering what I do for a living, I've never been very good at following that plan. And I remember I did a big race, and we met a good friend of ours, Dwayne Roberts. Yeah. And he said to me, "How's the training going?" I says, "Oh, mate, I've just lost it entirely. I just can't get my head around it." And he gave me the best bit of advice that I've ever had, and I still do it now, where as technology moves on, and you got your GPS and you've got your heart rate set, and you make sure you don't go above a certain level and all that sort of stuff. He said, just take your watch off, take your headphones off, and just go for a run. Just go for a run and enjoy the run. Don't be tied by time, distance, and all that. Just keep going until you feel you've had enough, and turn around and come back. And it was the best piece of advice I ever had, because whenever I'm not feeling it, or I think, do you know what, I know I need to pull my finger up my backside, that's exactly what I do.
And that's the best principle. I mean, I just cover up my watch because, I feel naked without it. So I wear it 24/7. So cover up, and I just don't bother with it. And I just go for run to feel.
Yeah.
And that's normally my recovery runs, because that's what I need to do. Just run a nice, easy, chilled out run and see what happens.
I mean, recently with the weather being the way it has, and it's been quite clammy and stuff. The last run, I went running yesterday. I went the day before that, and sort of previous to that as well. But the day before that, I was dying. I was absolutely dying. Did not enjoy it. But when I got back, I was glad I'd done it. So during it, it was horrible. But you just do it, don't you? You just crack on.
Yeah, and that comes from up there.
Yeah.
It's taking that motivation you got in the back of your head and bringing it forwards to the front to getting it done. And at the end, all the hormone releases and everything else, you're like, oh, actually, it wasn't as bad as it was to start with. So,
and then you eat the nearest big bit of cake.
Yeah, well, cake is my weakness, my friend.
Oh, me too, mate. Me too.
So, you've stepped into the world of ultra marathons. When was that big giant leap into further than 26.2?
I was away on a caravan weekend with a mate of mine, and he'd been a bit of a runner. He's a firefighter, a good friend of mine, and he was actually a guy I used to go to the pub with, and he had a bit of a change in lifestyle. So he used to smoke pub sort of every second day. And he said, I need to get myself in shape. And we just sat around the pub. He said, do you fancy doing a race? I said, yeah, go on then. Because I'd been, running or whatever. And I was in that stage where I'd had quite a bad injury. I was at a house fire, and a Economy 7 heater. I was on my hands and knees, and Economy 7 heater had fallen on my leg. Ones with the bricks in it.
Yeah.
I had made an indentation in my leg, and I was training for the London Marathon at the time. But I kept, stupid as you are, I kept on going and gave myself Achilles tendonitis in the opposite leg from overcompensating. So I was told I wasn't allowed to run for a year. Don't do anything. And 3 years later, I still hadn't run. So he suggested we do this run. We did it for Help for Heroes. We ended up doing X Energy's Druids Challenge.
Yeah.
The 3-dayer. And that was my introduction to ultras. So me and my mate stood on Beacon Hill in the mist, thinking, this is a good piece of piss. We've only got 24 miles to go. And we absolutely smashed it. We came in sort of the top 30 or something like that. Not realising it's an ultra marathon. It's an ultra marathon, not a sprint. And the next morning, we couldn't walk. And that was, and once we finished it, and we'd raised a fair bit of money for Help for Heroes, and that was a sort of, that was great. It was then I was contacted. I was in a job, and I'd met this guy at quite a severe incident many years back in 2007. Danny Slay. Danny and I were at a job where 4 firefighters unfortunately died in a warehouse in Alston, and we were there to do the body recovery. And we'd met each other as team leaders at the time. After 5 days, we'd done what we needed to do, and we went our separate ways. He was in Devon, Somerset, and I was in West Mids. And he rang me and just said, "You do a bit of running, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to put in for one. Do you fancy meeting up? We'll have a run." And we did the London Ultra. So it was that. That was the start of it, and then we just.
And how was the London Ultra? And the Druids?
Druids was great. I mean, the Druids, as an introduction, I've done the Ridgeway races a few times now in different guises, races of stones and all that. But the Ridgeway is a great place to run, but it's flipping hard work. It is flipping hard work because you know yourself, it's ruts and ditches
Yeah,
and
yeah.
chalk underfoot, you know, slidey hills, all sorts. But it was a great race and met some great people. I'm still in contact with people now that I met there. And the London Ultra was, I was more disappointed that I didn't get a T-shirt, but I got a mug instead. And I mentioned to Rory, Rory Coleman, he was just like, I can't believe he did that race in those Asics trail shoes. And that was all I had to say. I was like, fair enough. And I went, where's my flipping T-shirt?
Have you still got the mug?
I've still got the mug. It sits at my desk
There
at
you
work.
go.
It's
And
my
I bet,
pot.
exactly, it's used where your T-shirt probably wouldn't be.
Yeah, because I don't wear my T-shirt. My T-shirts are all sort of thinking up under. But it's a pen mug because it's a giant pint mug size. It's my pen mug at work on my desk.
So, obviously, you mentioned Danny, and you got together with 4 other firemen, wasn't it? And decided to run the Marathon des Sables in 2014.
Yeah, that was Danny's great idea.
So how was the Marathon des Sables?
A bit of a reset button, actually. It's you'd be hard pressed not to fall in love with the country because you do see some stunning stuff. But I remember, I actually did. I mean, the guy I mentioned before, we did the Druids with Andy Miller. He did the race with us, and I mean, he's a decent runner as well. And I remember the first day after the you're thrown straight into the sand dunes, and we got back to the bivouac, and I just sat down. I looked over to him, and he just looked at me, and just went, shook his head, just to say, "What the hell was that?" Because I remember saying to Danny after the first 10 miles of the dunes, "Mate, we're going to effing die out here." But it was just a trudge. I loved it. And what I found though was very much an anticlimax at the end, because you do all that, you go through every single emotion. I mean, Danny and I were crying on each other, and we were laughing, take piss at each other. But we both broke 10K to go on the last day. We were at the 10K. There's a video on it online actually, and we just looked at each other, and we both openly told each other we loved each other and had a bubble, and it's quite comical. But the emotions were just massive. But once you cross the line, you get the minute you sat down, it's just like
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, 2 years of prep. This is it. Very much an anticlimax. But
then most races are like that, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
All the work and the build up, and then the actual race where you build your friendships up. Not just obviously the guys that you went there with. You've built some friendships up. I've had obviously Ted Jackson on one of these the last series. Who was out there with you during that time?
Top guy.
Yeah.
Top guy.
And I think a lot of these events, especially in the ultra running world, you build up friendships that you never dream you'd have, really.
Yeah.
It's completely different to the road running scene, of everything else. The ultra running world is the friendships that obviously I met you through this community. So
that's what I found about the road racing. I that's one of the reasons I stepped away from road racing, because that's what I did. And when I first started, it was all road stuff, because I just found that the road racing is an elbow shoving,
PB
elitist.
chasing.
It's awful. It's awful.
It can be, yeah.
Whereas especially the ultras, it's more about everybody's the same. And I found that on the first race I did in the Druids, I had a guy, because it was a stage race. We were there. We had our backpacks and all that sort of stuff, and we'd been out 4 hours, and this guy absolutely flew past us. And he'd started 2 hours previous, and he overtook us. Quite clearly, an elite. But he took the time to stop, make sure we're okay, gave us some advice, and off he went. You wouldn't get that in the road race.
No. I've seen runners jump over people, collapse on the floor because it would stop their PB instead of helping them.
Yeah. And it's just a different community entirely.
It is. So now you've done the MDS, obviously 6 years ago. Times fly. Would you do it again? Would you do that event again, or would you do a different one?
I've been asked this question before, actually, and Danny talked me into it the last time, and as he does. For a man who doesn't say a lot, he's quite convincing. I wouldn't go out of my way, because I've done that. I've only ever had one race that I've done multiple times, and that's because I think it's harder than the MDS, and I will do it again one day. And it's, that I've ticked that box. I don't need to do it again. So yeah, I probably wouldn't. Given a choice, I probably want to do something else.
Fair enough. So obviously,
it's not the hardest race out there.
No,
I don't think. No, like I say, I've done the Brecken's Ultra 4 times, and that's not only psychologically tough, it's physically tough, because it's 2 loops at 23, and it is hard. It is hard. Yeah.
Well, the Breckens are unforgiving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I love
having
it.
To do it for work is bad enough. To do it for fun is even worse.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I met you through the event you helped create down in Plymouth with Danny and the 4 other firefighters at the time, back in 2014, which you created to help raise money for a charity. And this event's become one of my favourite. I mean, I've got numerous numbers from there. Even my boy's number. It's my boy's numbers. Look, he's up there. This is our special number wall. So yeah, you're up there. The event's up there quite a bit of time. My wife's, mine, my boys, my only ever number 1 numbers up there.
Oh yeah, you got the one, didn't you? Yeah.
I got the one in 2015. That's up there. So it's up there with all of them because it's a special event, Hope 24, which is now Hope Trail Festival. It's evolved. Unfortunately, it's not carrying on this year. It's a virtual event this year because of the current situation, sadly. And I was due to run the 36 hours because I'm an idiot, because that's what I do. So for those that don't know about the Hope Trail Festival, give us a bit of an insight how it began, how you and Danny started up, and what it means to you. Obviously, what it means to Danny could be something slightly different. It could be exactly the same, but what does it mean to you as one of the original founders?
I think I probably speak for Danny on this as well, because we're very sort of, the whole ethos of Hope 24 is it's an event for runners, provided by runners. And that sort of live it, love it, run it ethos is something we'd sort of started, like say, back in 2014, and it come about simply as a one-off charity event to raise money for Hope. Hope for Children. And the whole idea was just get, no more than a couple hundred people in the field and just run laps. And I remember getting there, and the 6 guys, we were all together, and we got there and we put out the polls and all this sort of stuff. Never done it before, never organised anything like this before in our lives. And we were very naive in some of the things we did. But, we were quite happy with that. It was a one-off thing. I mean, we're all, as majority of us that are in the fire service from the team are sort of senior management, so we're used to risk assessments and all that sort of stuff, and putting on events as such. So we were comfortable with that, and we treated it like an incident, if you like. We were sort of reactive and dynamic and stuff like that, as we need to be. But when I actually came to the event, I don't think we were actually prepared for the amount of work that was going to be involved. Because when you start to introduce like people, then it can get a lot harder. But what we found is that the community that were there couldn't have been more helpful, and it was brilliant. And we had some help from the local fire service and those local police, and they sort of they gave a helping hand. But what surprised us more than anything else was the camaraderie and the cheer and the joy that everybody had, and the feedback we got. And it was from the feedback we actually thought, you know what, we could maybe do this a couple more times. And that's how it really evolved to the point where it is now, where it's an annual pilgrimage for a lot of people. And Like you say, we met there, and I've met loads of people there. Like, you know, the names themselves are numerous, and the people that come time and time again, they've become a bit of a family, and we keep in contact quite a lot. For us as individuals, how does it make me feel? It's hard work for that sort of few days leading up, and sort of afterwards as well. It completely knackers us out, but we have the best time, and we have such a great feeling about it. And for me, as the gob, as it were, on the end of the mic, Danny doesn't naturally talk. He's quite a if he's got something to say, he'll say it and it'll mean something. Otherwise, apart from talking shit now and again when he's drunk, it's quite relevant. Whereas I'm the opposite. I can talk shit all day, but I feed off people, and as you know, I have no filter.
Matelot.
Matelot.
That's what
Whenever I do have a filter, it's just a very small one.
This is it.
But we love it. We absolutely love it, and we've looked at progressing it into other events, the Devon 250 and stuff like that. But we think did you do the Hope 12?
No, I was away, and I came back on the last. Yeah, I came back on the last sort of on the actual day.
Yeah,
and I popped up and saw it, but I never got a chance to race it. But I went over and I looked. Yeah.
But we actually found that harder than the Hope 24, and I think it's because it's squeezed into a small space. But we've done it that many times now. It's sort of second nature. But we always come unstuck. But the people make the race. We have a great time. We absolutely have a great time. We've had our challenges, as you know. We had to halt the race a couple of years ago.
Normally weather,
yeah. But I couldn't ask for a greater bunch of people and a better venue, to be honest, because it's brilliant. But I'm biased.
So, obviously, Hope's special to you, and as a volunteer who then went on to run it, and I've done solo ever since, apart from 2018 because I was away, sadly. It's special as a runner.
On a holiday, weren't you?
Oh, mate, it was a 10-month jolly. Playing with the Chinese and North Koreans. It was fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
But otherwise, yeah, it was a bit of a holiday. And I was away. I had entered, but I couldn't make it. And I was really looking forward to the 36 this year, because after dipping my toe into 36-hour racing, lap racing last year, it's another new challenge, isn't it? And it's different to 24 hours. Having those extra 12 hours.
Yeah.
It's
a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. And obviously knowing the type of course and route that Hope can provide, 12 hours of brutally beautiful, scenic trails is probably the best way.
Be under no illusion. Danny is the architect of this, and although we consult on quite a bit. I mean, the majority of stuff comes from him. I tend to be more the confirmation of his madness and his ideas, because trust me, some of the stuff he's come up with, you'd be thankful he hasn't.
Well, I've been trying to push him for the 48 hours, but that's not come to fruition yet. 36, I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, Danny's brain works at 500 mile an hour. He's constantly, and he's got some great ideas, but sometimes he's like, mate, right. And same as Susan. Susan's integral too as well.
Yeah,
she's that sort of voice of reason.
So you and Danny, as you've already touched, have dealt with some horrific situations in your life, especially in your current job, in the fire brigade, and post-traumatic stress disorder is one of those mental illnesses I feel doesn't get touched upon a lot. Dementia does, anxieties, stuff like that. Gets bounced around a heck of a lot, especially dementia. And of course, totally a good reason for it. But post-traumatic stress disorder doesn't, because a lot of people associate it with obviously the armed forces for very good reasons. Shell shock, as it used to be known as many years ago. So it's been around for a long time, just in different names. But people are starting now getting diagnosed with it for various things, be it seeing a traumatic event like you may have seen, or there's been a tragic death in their family or something, giving them post-traumatic stress disorder. Can you sort of elaborate on what sort of triggered yours off, so people can understand where you come from when in the world of post-traumatic stress?
So, so the last sort of more or less 5 years, more than anything else, it come to light that I wasn't in the right place, and a few things happened. A breakdown of marriage, number of events, and we have things called. So I'm a PID officer. So I'll do post-incident debriefs for crews who go through traumatic incidents, and it's a simple rock up to the job, give everybody key advice to the crews on things to look out for, signpost them to sort of help they can get, have a chat with them. If they want to talk about the job, they can talk about the job, but no, that's not what it's there for. And if need be, signpost them to further on up the chain of occupational health, clinical input, that sort of stuff. But what tends to be forgotten in my role, and it's not so much the case now because we've got better at it, is that I would go up there, I would turn up at jobs on my own as an officer. You're there, you've dealt with it, you then get in your car, you go home. Whereas crews, they're there, they bounce off each other, they go back to the station, have a cup of tea, chew the fat, talk about the job, kick in a bit of mortuary humour as they do.
Yeah.
Which is healthy for them, and then deal with that as they deal with it. But for us, that was it. And one of the biggest things that we've got better at now is talking to each other about what's going on. Now, in my case, I actually dipped in and out of it a couple of times before being diagnosed, and it was more a bit of a self-realization that I needed help, and more of a what can I do to help myself? And the guy that sort of saving grace was actually, I went for medical, and the doc did the usual medical bit, and the doc said to me, so how's things for yourself? I said, I'm all right. He says, you're lying. I said, what do you mean? And he actually says, there's something wrong with you. What's wrong with you? And he actually took me off the run straight away. And then I got referred. And then I met a guy who's an occupational health psychologist, Alan Dovey, and he then gave me CBT and brought it back to, actually, the majority of it came from my childhood, from when my mother, dealing with my mother's alcoholism and how that made me feel. And because not realizing it, I'd actually blocked out 5 years of my childhood from about 10, 11 to I was 15. I don't actually remember it. And that was it. And it was once it started coming on and being, that coaching about how I can deal with it is where I learned those sort of coping mechanisms. I now know where they are. I now know when I'm gonna have a moment. And I'm far better prepared, far better educated on what it is. So much so as I'm quite a big advocate in the brigade. I talk quite a lot. I have people contact me quite a lot. In fact, I had somebody before yesterday ask me for a chat because he'd just been diagnosed with it as well. So it's my coming out. We're not there yet as a service, but I think we're almost certainly there. And Danny was the same. Danny went through similar stuff, and that came from that one incident that we were at together.
I definitely think over the years, it's improved a heck of a lot, and it's the same in my job as well. As you know, when I joined FOST, you know what FOST is. When I joined FOST back in March, up until the November prior, so what's that? November, December, January, February, March. So 5 months. There was 9 suicides within the base in 5
That's a
months,
lot, isn't it?
caused by various things, whether it's financial or what have you. They all suffered, and now they've brought in mental health first aiders.
Yeah, we got them. Yeah.
You know, so we're now going forward. Finally, it's not great, but we're getting there. And it always reminds me of that of a story of an incident that happened down near Roach, Victoria, down in Cornwall, where a lorry carrying a digger with the arm that swings out and stuff. It came loose, decapitated a car.
I remember the job. I remember hearing about it, actually. Yeah.
Decapitated some of the passengers, and unfortunately, some of the firefighters later on took their own lives.
Yeah.
You know, we've come a long way since then. I've seen it within my job, and you've seen it within yours. 22 years. You see a lot, and you know, as you said, the jobs have changed in its entirety, the same in mine, and we're moving, luckily, in the right direction, especially when it comes to mental health. And young lads, unfortunately, the way we have it in our mob, and you'll understand this, because you come from where we are. They're stuck in cabins now, solo cabins, unlike when we had messes. On shore base, you used to have like a 6-man mess in the shore base. So you had people to talk to, and you mentioned this in your crew. You had your crew to talk to. Yeah. Now they're stuck in what I can describe as travel lodge style cabins, by themselves. So they've got no one to talk to. So their social interaction is completely different to when you were in and when I joined up and everything else. So that's one of the problems. And they recognise this now. They're now starting to look at going back to that cabin mess style we used to have.
That was great.
It was great.
It was great.
You go out together. You go out together. You get in trouble together. You look after each other. You get drunk together. You play pranks on each other, and you talk to each other. And it's the same on board ship.
Yeah.
But what we're having now on difficulties on board ship is that because they're so used to being in these solo cabins, when they go onto their ship, they haven't got that social bonding or what have you. It takes them a while to get used to it, and some don't actually get used to it. It's just a strange thing, and that has a massive impact on people's mental health. Especially when you deploy for a long time. If you're not used to being surrounded by 57 hairy ass stokers or what have you, it's an eye opener.
God, small ships, bloody hell! I remember being on a ton class minesweeper with the Sheraton for 6 months in our mess square was the sonar dome. It's just there was 20 of us in there. It does. I can imagine it being a bit of a nightmare.
And this is the thing, and luckily, as you said, things are improving. So you obviously use your running now to help you escape from that. So how does it help you?
There's a bit of an escape. So you probably heard the term peace in war. So a lot of veterans have had it that have been diagnosed with certain things. It's this ability to feel more at ease in conflict or in a stressful situation than you are at home dealing with the menial things like the missus giving you grief for not hoovering the lawn for cutting the lawn, and the kids shouting at you, the tea not being made, light bulb. There's all that. That's the menial stuff, but you want the exciting stuff. That's what I was finding, is that my excitement of kicking indoors, and running the burning buildings, as you get promoted, that changes. So I find my peace in war is really, really pushing myself on a run, You know, if I'm going out for a run, I don't set myself a distance. I'll just keep going until I feel I'm knackered. That's my at peace. And the feeling I get afterwards is actually, it's like euphoria.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I've just changed tact. So that excitement of doing the ultra marathons and training and putting yourself out of that comfort zone, I don't get that as much that anymore. One, I'm getting too bloody old for it, and and two, I don't get the opportunity to do it at my rank anyway. So my physical aspect and doing that physical thing is my push, my put myself out of comfort zone. You know, just going out a little bit further, and that's it for me really. It's less about fitness. We all like to keep fit. You know, the ones that do run like to keep fit. It's more about just being on my own and being with my own thoughts and doing what I want to do in my physical well-being. Really, it's very weird because it's that.
No, but
yeah,
it's not weird to someone like me who understands. You know, it may be weird to someone else who doesn't run, it doesn't, or hasn't had any mental health issues or anything like that. They probably might not understand as well. But to me, that makes perfect sense. You know,
yeah. My missus wonders why sometimes I'll get a backpack on and I'll shove it. I haven't been able to do it recently, but put a lot of stuff in my pack, climb a mountain, get to the top, come halfway down, pitch there, and just sleep there overnight. She thinks I'm absolutely bonkers, and I speak to a lot of people and think, what the hell are you doing that for? You don't understand. It's about the achievement of getting to the mountain, even though I've done it 20, 30 times. It's like being on your own, being with your own thoughts, and just being happy where you are, being happy in yourself.
And it also gives you that, if you want to have a cry, you can have a cry, and there's nobody around to judge it. You know, and it's great. So, if you've got any advice for someone who maybe listens to this and things are resonating in their heads about obviously stuff that may have been going on in their lives, what have you? What advice have you got to them that may help them?
So I always approach anything of difficulty as thinking of myself as a third person. And I think to myself, well, do you know what? People do this every day. People get through this every day. There's something difficult needs to be done. People have done it for hundreds of years. If they can do it, and if they're able to do it, why can't I? And it's the same about getting help, is that no matter what dark place you think you're in, and whatever circumstances you find yourself in, there's always a way through it. Just speak to somebody. And 9 times out of 10, people know there's something wrong with you. But what they don't want to do is approach you because you think they're prying on you. The stigma of mental health in lots of workplaces and even at home is quite a lot, and a lot of it's not identified. Just speak to somebody, even if it's if they ask you if you're okay. 9 times out of 10, somebody will say to me, "Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?" Just say, "Not really." And I guarantee you, if that person is as good a friend as they think they are, then they'll be there for you. It's as simple as that. Thankfully, I've got a good network around me, like you guys and Danny and my other half and the kids. So I've been quite fortunate. Caught me just in time.
Brilliant. So we're going to finish off now with a quick fire round, my friend. 10 questions. 10 questions. All right. They're simple questions. All right. Don't worry. I'm not going to test you too hard. All right. So first question: favorite shoe brand?
Favorite what?
Shoe brand.
Shoe brand. Ooh, are we talking trainers or are we talking?
We're talking about running here.
running. Ooh, I like my Zoot. Got a pair of Zoots. They're really good, actually. Probably the comfiest trainers I've ever had.
Yeah, I wasn't asking about your Jimmy's Choos high heels, mate. That's for Tuesday nights. Your favourite event you've run?
Oh, Brecken's Ultra.
Okay. Your favourite snack to have while on a long run?
Flapjack.
Your favourite clothing brand running?
God, that's a difficult one.
Is there a piece of clothing that you prefer?
Yeah, I'm quite into my Nike running stuff at the moment. It's fits quite nice. Quite nice.
Favourite distance that you prefer to run? I know you're not really worried about distances at the moment, but you know, is there a specific distance?
Ultras. Ultras.
Anything ultra?
So 50k. I love them.
All right. Favourite place you've run in your life?
Oh, Cornish coast.
Nice. A runner who inspires you?
I was going to be really corny and say you, but that would just be a bit twee. Favorite runner who inspires me? There's one. I ain't going to say Rory Coleman because that would just go for his ego. Colin Barnes.
Nice.
Colin Barnes.
I like Colin, good lad.
Nice chap.
Yeah. Road or trail?
Oh, trail all day.
It used to be road, obviously.
Used to be road.
Yeah. Okay. Do you use a GPS watch?
I have a number of watches. I currently on day to day I use a Samsung smartwatch, but I've got a TomTom and I've got a Garmin.
You like got a coat and you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And what event would you like to race when we get back to racing properly?
Oh,
you can pick any race.
Any race
you would like to race when racing's back.
Well, I said it earlier. I'd like to do a Brecken's Ultra again. I would like to do that again. I might not be the fastest, but it's one of those where it just proper challenges you. It's a proper gnarly race. And since the last time I stopped racing it, they've introduced a medal. You never used to get a medal. You used to just get a pair of socks and a t-shirt. It was that bad that my mate Andy Miller made his own flipping medal because he was that gutted he didn't get the medal. So I'd like to do it so I get a medal and just wave in his face.
Even I gave you a medal on my event.
You did, mate. I had proper nice as well. That's taking pride place, you know it is, mate.
Yeah, that's it. And is that a gash MDS tattoo on your arm?
That is a gash. Yeah. That is the gashiest, mate. That's it's proper bad, isn't it? I'm actually thinking of getting covered up and it put on my calf. I got it. Basically, turned up at a tattoo shop with the drawing and went do that, and he did it, and it was like it's pants. It's pants.
It could be so much better.
Be,
but I can't say anything. Look at my gash tats. Look at it. People can't see what we're showing here, but we're proper matlows. We've got some really shit tattoos, people.
Yeah, 17, mate.
I might stick this on YouTube so people can see it because it's terrible. That's it, really. That brings us to the end of the interview, mate. It's been amazing catching up with you. I miss your face.
You too, pal. You too. Yeah, good to see you, mate. And by the way, mate, cheers for taking up the press ups. They are entertaining as I thought they would be. Lots of lovely locations.
Well, I'm trying to mix up the locations, you know, because it just makes it a bit better than someone's front room.
Mate, if you get a chance, look at the guy called on the PTSD press up challenge. A guy called Roy Phillips, and he's one of the guys that I nominated. Mate, he's done it on top of a concrete tube. He's done it on top of a fire engine. He's done it in full BA. He's done it in full. Oh, mate.
I saw one guy. There's a guy on my Facebook. He's one of our local runners. Michael Gattleback, I think his name is. I can't remember off the top. I'm sure it's him. He said his uncle out in Australia. So he's Australia, New Zealand, and he showed us his video of him doing these presses. It was up a fucking tree, right? I mean, not just like a little tree, one of those big forest pines overlooking like the ocean.
Brilliant.
And the cameraman shaking in case.
That's fucking brilliant, that is.
I was like, I ain't going that far. It's bad enough when I was up the top of the cliffs doing it the other day in the valley. That scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit titchy, that was, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit worried about that one. But no, it's been wonderful, mate. Obviously, your missus and your family and all that are good. Love to them.
Yeah, yours too, mate.
And we'll catch up soon. I'll just pause this and we'll have a bit of a chat afterwards. So,
All right, buddy.
cheers for that.
Cheers.
So that was my good friend Pete Drummond talking about all sorts of things. If you want to follow him on Instagram, he's Nomad1191. And I'm sure if you want to chat to him about anything, mental health, running, he'd be happy to chat to you. Thanks for listening or watching, because I think I might shove this on YouTube. If you like it, let me know. Give us a review, all that sort of stuff. It'll be available on all podcast streams. Until the next time, thank you. You've been listening to If My Feet Could Talk.